Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Welcome to this short video. In this series of videos, we shall review the Code of Ethics published by the uh, Accounting and Auditing Organization of Islamic Financial Institutions, IOFI. And just like the other professional accounting bodies, each accounting body usually has its own code of ethics, which is more or less similar. So IOFI also has issued its code of ethics, which is to be observed by the Islamic finance accountants and auditors. Now, this code is fundamentally different from the codes issued by either the CPA bodies or ICAP bodies or maybe any other accounting bodies, because it is fundamentally based on the faith and the fundamental philosophy of Islam, rather than just the secular values. So it was developed more than 20 years back, 1998, and effective from 1999, January 1999. So let's see what are some of the provisions of this particular code. So the code has its own objective, right? Just like all the other codes, and the code has three fundamental structures in which the code is divided. The first is the basic Sharia foundations, the basic postulates or qualities which actually emerge from the basic Islamic faith, which actually establish the foundations for the developing of the principles, which is the second segment of the standards of this particular code of ethics framework, and the third is the rules. So we can assume these values as more of a philosophical nature. The principles may be more of theoretical guidance, practically relevant, and rules may be more of a very strict guidance, which have to be followed in true spirit, in letter and spirit, rather than interpreted in any other way. So the first part is about the importance, the introduction and the importance. So it says that accounting as a discipline in itself, accounting and auditing is a farz kifaya for the ummah, for the society. So there have to be certain experts in accounting, in Islamic accounting, in order to enable the society, the economy to work on the Islamic foundations and do the accounting and financial reporting tasks wherever it is required within the Islamic social entrepreneurs and organizations. And it also mentions that accounting is one of the purpose of Sharia, because accounting is a means to fulfill Sharia by measuring the allocating rights fairly among claimants, embodying the Quranic concept of adl and freedom from bias. So it is something that has to be there. The expertise has to be there in order to establish that the adl is being observed, and there is no offense done to anybody within the Islamic society. And of course, it also mentions the limitations of the secular courts, arguing that there is no divine dimension, and of course, they cannot be compatible 100% with the Islamic philosophy. So what makes this code unique? It mentions that it is derived from Sharia, which is divine and a permanent guidance, Quran and Hadith. And a very fundamental thing is that it is enforced by faith and fear of Allah, not just the professional obligations. So usually the code of ethics are professional obligations, and there are a lot of subjective things. For example, if nobody is getting benefit from a certain course of action, then probably the code would argue that that option should not be taken, despite of the rightness or wrongness, because the rightness and wrongness usually in the secular courts is defined by the stakeholders' perspective. Whereas when it comes to the divine guidance, so even if nobody is watching, even if nobody is benefiting from a certain course of action, that course of action, if it is directed by the Almighty, it has to be observed. It has to be observed, and there can be long-term implications of observing it. Although the short-term side doesn't might not show any consequences. So it applies to both internal accountants and external auditors and IFIs. So it's a fundamental in nature. It's a sort of a foundations, and It also mentions that if there are other codes in place by other accounting bodies, insofar as they do not contradict the fundamental concepts and the provisions of the Islamic Code of Ethics, then they can be observed simultaneously. So the two fundamental objectives is that there needs to be an ethical awareness of what has to be done in a certain ethical dilemma, and what are the guiding fundamental principles to be undertaken, to be observed by the accountants and auditors in the Islamic finance. So this is the first objective, to establish the ethical awareness, to develop the ethical awareness among the professionals. And the second objective is that to ensure the accuracy and reliability of accounting information, because the accounting information is an outcome of various decisions which are made in the financial reporting process, and they carry the decisions which also involve some judgment, some options, and at times some subjective judgments as well. So if these decisions are taken in the light of these ethical principles, then of course the accounting information which is developed, the financial reporting information which is developed, becomes more reliable and accurate. So three fundamental parts and or sections, or it says the layers of the ethical this ethical code is there are 7 qualities, right? The fundamental qualities which of a philosophical nature, which comes from the very original sources of Quran and Hadith. Then it discusses 6 fundamental principles which provide us a theoretical guidance in certain application of certain accounting and financial reporting decisions. But again, since they are principles, they can be interpreted, and there is a room for interpretation, there is a room for their application. So the context determines that how the principle is going to be applied. And the third section is the rules, right? So 6 grand rules, and with every rule there are sub rules. These are very strict, right? So in rule usually there is no room for interpretation. There is no room for the context specific applications. So these are more stringent. So let's see one by one. So the 6 or rather 7 fundamental values or qualities is, the first one is the integrity, which is the amana. So Islam values integrity, and accountants must be competent, qualified, and trustworthy. So it has vast implications. There can be a broader meaning of integrity, amana, and there can be a narrower meaning. So insofar as the narrower meaning restricted to the accounting profession is concerned, is that I cannot be honest with my profession if I am not competent. I cannot be honest with my profession, with my conduct, with my behavior, with my decision as a professional, if I am not qualified enough, if I do not upskill myself, if I am not trustworthy. So these are the fundamentals, qualities within the narrower boundary, and in the broader boundary, the amana or integrity encompasses the other values which we see in the Khilafah as well. That whatever given to us is whatever resources we have in this world are actually given to us, gifted to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they are actually a sort of amana, a responsibility. Even our own body, even my own parts of my own body, they are not mine. So that's why we used to say that suicide is something prohibited in Islam, because my body is not mine. I am given it as a trust, and I have to use it in the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has advised us. The second fundamental principle is the Khilafah. So the man is Allah's Khalifa on earth, and is accountable for wealth entrusted to him, for resources entrusted to him, for the people who have been following him. So it's not mine. My property is not mine. So Sharia objective of preserving property means no waste, no unjust transactions. I cannot do that it's my body and my will, so kind of thing, right? So nothing is mine. So all the things that I possess are given to me by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I have to be just. I have to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will in order to discharge my responsibility honestly. And of course, there is an option, there is an independence. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the permission to do whatever we want, but end of the day, we have to account for it. The third important consideration is the sincerity. And this is again something which secular courts cannot have it, right? So The sincerity says that it's not about what you do, it's what about why you do, and it's something. The answer to this why is not what you tell to people, what you justify. How do you justify? No, it's how do you justify between you and your God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's very important, right? So the accountant should seek to obey Allah, right? So we have to be pure in our actions. So whatever actions we are taking, we have to be very much sincere with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there may be situations, for example, when some action seems legal, seems lawful, seems allowable, but I am doing it because it is benefiting me, and if it wouldn't have benefited me in a certain way, I wouldn't have done it, right? So this is where the ikhlas comes in, and ikhlas actually guides that what has to be, and actually it is the parameter on the basis of which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides that how the actions will be evaluated. So, not submitting to external pressures and treating work as a worship by itself. So this is the sincerity. The fourth value is taqwa, the piety. So fearing Allah, and not only in public, not only when somebody is watching, not only when your decisions are reported, but also when you are nobody's watching you, you are alone, and the secrecy is secured. Still, the piety is the fundamental quality that all Muslims have, and of course the Muslim professionals do need to have. So enjoining good and forbidding evil, and making oneself safe from all the things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden. Of course, these values are overlapping. So the fifth one is the perfection, righteousness, right? So itqan, the accountant must not only perform duties but strive for perfection, right? So the quality, in Urdu we used to say ihsan, the martaba ihsan. So attend through academic qualifications, practical experience, and religious knowledge. So within my profession, just like whatever I like for myself, so I should like for my employer as well, for others as well. So improving the quality of job, not just feeling comfortable with the minimum requirement, but also putting in efforts and all the other stuff in order to make it as far as possible the perfect, and of course not at the compromise of other values. Now, muraqaba or Allah fearing conduct. So this is much similar to what we did in the piety, the taqwa as well. So must believe that Allah observes all our acts and restraining from all. So the self-monitoring or muraqaba. So it means that now this is actually operationalization of the piety. So the piety was the fundamental quality, and this is the operationalization of that quality. It means I have to insist myself. I have to remind myself every time, very frequently, that I am Khalifa, and I need to have piety, and I am accountable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And finally, the accountability or muhasaba, which is the fundamental juzu of iman as well, that end of the day, maybe the court of the state wouldn't issue a decree on me, maybe the police wouldn't catch me, maybe the fraud detection wouldn't have any clue about what decisions I have taken, what misappropriations I have done, but end of the day, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. I think خَيْرًا يَرَهُ is first and شَرًّا يَرَهُ is after. And also I recall the ayah in Surah Luqman, إِن تَكُ مِثْقَالَ حَبَّةٍ مِّنْ خَرْدَلٍ أَتَيْنَا بِهَا, something like this, that if you do something in the rocks, darkness of rocks or darkness of night, or somewhere on the mountains or things like that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring it. So that's the perfect thing which leaves no other requirement for no other monitoring mechanism if this is strong enough. So moving forward, the principles, the 6 principles, which I think I conclude my video here, and the 6 principles we shall inshallah see in the next video. Thank you.